Hello and welcome to Simple Suppers, where every week I'll be showing you guys how to cook a nice, simple dish that will help you feed your friends and families better food in a lot less time. Today's dish is a really simple one. All we're going to be doing is a pork Kiev. Nice and simple, lovely and wholesome, and everybody will think you're a kitchen master when you pull this one off, even though, don't tell them, it's a real simple one. That's why we're doing it first video. All we're going to do is simply take these lovely pork steaks here, trim them up, butterfly them so they open up to make a nice pocket, make a nice little butter out of our garlic, our rosemary, and mix that through with the butter and a little bit of seasoning, flour, egg and breadcrumb it, and then serve it simply with just some new potatoes and a lovely little salad made out of these beautiful canned tomatoes and a little bit of fresh watercress, all pulled together with a little bit of citrus dressing. Okay, to start we're going to take our lovely little pork steaks here and we're just going to trim them up to take all of this fat around the outside from here off, because you don't want that encrusted in your breadcrumbs, otherwise you'll just end up with a giant great big mouth of nastiness. Whereas if we trim back this lovely tender meat here, your pork scallops will be absolutely lovely. If you look closely, these are far thicker than your average pork loin steak that you get in the Valley pack. These are just sold in Tesco's in packs of 4, Sainsbury's, I'm sure all the rest of them will have it. But you do need a slightly thicker steak to be able to stuff it without ending up with rips and tears in your scallop. I'm just going to trim it up, like we said earlier, by taking off this bit of back fat around here. We'll leave the stuff in the middle here because this won't leave a massive great big mouthful. However, to take this off, all we do is simply put the tip of a sharp knife through and then cut along following the line of the fat. Before just snipping it out. Once we're at one end, we can just turn the fat and just cut along the back end, trying to get in there using the tip of the knife. So we're just skirting, just got a little bit of meat left on there. I'm trying to leave as little meat on the steak as possible as we cut. But yeah, and just take off that piece there, leaving us with a lovely, nice, fresh pork steak. To make the pocket, all we're going to do is simply cut halfway through the meat, all the way back to here. So we just leave a little hinge along the back and open it up so this pork steak looks like a butterfly. To do that, simply put your hand over the meat, nice and flat, and keep your fingers in. Use a sharp, straight or serrated blade, depending on which you prefer, and gently saw, really gently, straight through the middle of the steak. There we go, see we've got a nice straight, we just need to go a little bit further back. And there we go. One butterflied pork steak. Opened up so we've got the hinge in the middle, and then you've got the two bits of the meat either side. And okay, so you'll notice that the pork steak is a little bit on the small side for stuffing at the moment, but that's not a problem. What we're going to do is we're going to bat it out, and this is why we got nice thick steaks in the first place. So first of all, we can make a nice big pocket, but second of all, the batting out will help to tenderize as the meat just by simply breaking down a little bit of the connective tissue. To do that, all we're simply going to do is take our pork steak here, a sheet of greased baking parchment with just a little bit of olive oil, just to help the meat slide over it so it doesn't rip and tear. The paper itself will stop the actual meat from putting holes in itself. Put our steak on that piece of baking parchment, however many you want to do at a time, close it up, and just simply fold it over in the paper. And then here, all I have is a nice wooden rolling pin, covered in cling film again, just to make sure that no meat at all gets onto this. And I'm just going to give it a good whack. And you don't want to hit this too hard, it's better to slowly stretch it out and just get a massive great big whack and rip it straight away, because the paper will help stop it, but you will end up with rips if you just whack it too hard. See how that's getting a nice bit bigger? We open it up. Yeah, we could do it a little bit more. But we're only just aiming to increase the size of this by about a quarter. Maybe remember to bash See how that's much thinner, but we have a much larger pocket in the middle to stuff our garlic butter into. To make the garlic butter is really super simple. It's just combining about 25 grams to 30 grams of butter per portion with a nice little sprig of some herbs and a little bit of garlic. I will leave you to guess how much you put in because it's all down to taste, and this is what we want to do, is to start cooking and basically experimenting. With the butter you can put anything, you know, you could replace the butter with cheese, but you know, sage, rosemary, thyme, any of these will work, or just plain garlic butter, parsley. It really, what you stuff in your pork steak is really up to you. I mean, you know, you could put more pork in your pork steak, stuff pork steaks with sausage stuffing or whatever. Get creative, enjoy your cooking, find something that you really want to stick in that pork steak and make it your dish. But for this one, we're going to use a simple garlic butter. Right, so we're going to take about 30 grams of butter, but a good dollop of butter per portion, because I'm making two, a large spoonful will do. I like mine nice and garlicky, so I've just got 2 cloves of garlic here, which I'm just going to peel and chop. That over there. We're only going to loosely chop this garlic, because what we're going to do with it in a second is we're just going to crush it up. So just chop it up as, you know, reasonably fine. But like I say, you're going to turn it into a paste in 2 seconds with some salt. And we're going to get our rosemary, we'll chop it up with it as well. Okay, so got a nice bit of garlic and rosemary there. Okay, so here I've got that loosely chopped garlic, just chopped a little bit of rosemary through it, and all I'm going to do is add a little pinch of salt. Now the salt's going to be the seasoning for the butter, but also at this point it's going to help me to crush up the garlic into a nice paste. And I'm just going to use the side of the knife, using the tip to apply the most pressure. I'm just going to crush my garlic up with the rosemary. Now, you can see all this lovely green oil coming out of the garlic and the rosemary. That's all the essential oils coming out. You're activating them to get into the butter, because that will start to just flavour your meat lovely from the moment it starts melting within, rather than having to wait to cook all the flavour out of the garlic, so you end up with chunks of garlic in butter sauce basically. You can see how this is turning into a lovely little paste. If you've got a pestle and mortar, ideal, but simply just give it a good old crushing. Any big bits, make sure you get in there. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. When you're finished, just run a knife through quickly, just to break up any stalks in the rosemary, any twigs in the garlic. And that is going to be the hard part of your garlic butter. So that all into your butter. Now this is for 2, you know, large knob of butter, as I said earlier, and 2 cloves of garlic, but that's because I like it garlicky. And all we do is simply smush that together to form a nice buttery paste, so we've got a nice even mix of the ingredients through it. Add a little bit of pepper, because obviously with seasoning, it's best to season from the inside out. There we go, and really quickly and simply, there's our garlic butter, ready to go in those lovely little pork steaks. Okay, so now comes to the bit of the dish where you're going to get your kudos. Now this is the part you're going to get all the kudos for, the penne. But really it couldn't be simpler. When I say it's flour, egg and breadcrumbs, add the word dip, dip and dip, and then you pretty much got to dip it in flour and dip it in egg, dip it in breadcrumbs, and you're done. Okay, so we've got the butter, we've got the pork, now we need to do the seasoning part. Nice and simply, into your first container, just a bit of plain flour, and then just lightly season that with a little bit of salt. Give it a good mix through. That one's ready. Egg. 1 egg, dash of milk, and then just give it a little whisk through. You don't need to be exact with your egg and milk mixture, but for every egg you should roughly put in a shot of milk. And then to top it all off, final tub, you have just plain old breadcrumbs. Now I make these from stale bread in a blender, but you can buy them from Tesco's if you really want, but it's nice and simple. Right, so getting it all together. Take a pork steak, open her up nicely, and add a nice dollop of butter right in the middle, leaving a nice amount of space around the outside so that the meat will seal around the butter and keep it in there. You shouldn't see any butter poking up the edge, and you should be able to get your finger all the way around the lump without sliding off the edge of the meat. So you can get a bit more up this end here. There you go. Right, and then we're going to do that for all of your pork steaks, but because it's just me today, we've got one. Give the edges a nice press together, make sure there's nothing in the middle, and voila, we're ready to go with our pane. Okay, so first of all, holding it all together, we just place it in our flour, making sure we get a good coating all the way around on the edges, and then just pat off the excess. So you've just got a light single layer of flour coating it. Stick that in your egg and milk mixture, and then just toss that in the bread. Give it a little shake, another shake, and press it. Okay, and then just to make sure we've got an extra nice layer of breadcrumbs on there, we are going to just put it back through our egg and milk mixture, no more flour this time, and then back through the breadcrumbs. This will double the layer of breadcrumbs up and make sure you get a really good seal around the outside, but also help it crisp and golden up beautifully. And there we go, one pane pork steak stuff. Okay, so on the stove right now I've got a pan of seasoned boiling water and a nice warm pan just to cook our steak in. These are fairly big potatoes, so we're just going to cut them down into 3 to make them cook nice and easily. Whereas if you have smaller ones, feel free to cook them down into 2 or even do whole ones. But to make this cook in under 15 minutes, you need to chop your potatoes down nice and small to get them going, and then just put a lid on the top. Help keep the heat in and get it going. And then on with the lid. Let your potatoes cook for about 5 minutes before you start cooking your pork steak, but if you leave it that long, everything should come together at the right time. To make this is a really simple cherry tomato and watercress salad. Rocket will do if you want something, but you do want something peppery, dressed with just a little bit of lemon zest and lemon oil juice and olive oil and a little bit of seasoning. That's all these fantastic ingredients need. Okay, so into our pan we just give a nice generous glug of olive oil and make sure it coats all the pan. Okay, so my pan is quite hot right now, so I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit because we want to get a nice crust on it, but we don't want to burn the breadcrumbs. Okay, so we're going to bring our pork steak and then just lay it into the fat, making sure it gets a nice coating of the oil on one side, and leave it to cook there for about a minute 30 seconds. After a minute, carefully flip your steak and let it keep on cooking. You're going to want to turn that every minute and a half to 2 minutes for about 8 minutes, and at which point it will be perfectly cooked and golden brown. If you find that your pan starts to dry out a little bit, just give it a little glug of olive oil on the first time, but after that enough oil will have soaked into the breadcrumb to keep it browning and crisping lovely. Here we go, a few minutes later on. This steak's been turned twice in the pan already. It's starting to get a lovely golden crust onto it, but it's got about another minute or so until it's ready. So I'll start draining the potatoes and getting them ready to bring all together in a second. When the steak's been in the pan for a good 6 to 8 minutes, depending on how you like your pork cooked, take it out and stick it on a resting fat tray with the rest of them. While your pork steak's relaxing, get your freshly drained new potatoes, still steaming, give them a little knob of butter, some salt, some pepper, and then a little squeeze of lemon. Just a few drops, just to loosen that up a little bit. And then give them a good crushing up. Beat some better than others, and leave it, but stir them together so you make a really rustic new potato mash. You've got your pork, you've got your crushed potatoes, and you've got your lovely citrusy tomato salad. Okay, so we could all dole it up on the place and it would look nice, vibrant colours, but if we're going to make this look really truly nice, we're going to do a little bit of kitchen poncery. We've got a nice ring cutter here. Just going to add a nice healthy spoon of the new potatoes. Just give it a gentle press. Twist the ring off. Add my freshly cooked pork steak, and then give a healthy portion of the watercress tomato salad. Oozing a lovely little Kiev made out of pork. A beautiful little simple salad to go with, and all in about 20 minutes. I really hope you enjoy your pork Kiev, or whatever you choose to stuff your pork loin with, or even if you choose to go with some chicken. But remember, if you want to eat better food in less time, keep it